my head is in a very interesting place in terms of um, thinking patterns. I'm hoping to capture some of those thought processes, though I'm finding it somewhat hard to articulate what makes them any different from any other normal time, I suppose. I guess it really depends on what your definition of normal is, how much of the world you know, and how much of psychology you're familiar with. Because a lot of who I am, what I'm defined as, is rather unnoteworthy to most people, but could possibly end up being something quite extraordinary to a psychologist eventually, hopefully. Maybe that psychologist will be me. Who knows? Let's put it this way. I've been working on a thesis for a number of years, and by working on, I mean slowly acquiring pieces, and it ends up adding up to a lot of evidence that I've found that are credible sources, insofar as I can tell, that are saying basically that my thesis is true. It's taken several years to get to that point, and I still don't really necessarily have the ability to articulate what my thesis is necessarily. I don't really think that it's anything particularly new, but I think it just has to be worded in a unique way. I guess that's what all theses are, is a novel take on an old idea, because uniquity is nigh impossible. Thoughts have come and gone through humans for generations, and to say that there is a unique thought is asinine, because everything that can be thought has already been thought in the past. It's just proving it that's a different matter. So that ends up meaning that all of humankind can't necessarily ever be more than what it is at any moment, and yet at the same time is still becoming more at every second, because time, as we observe it from our perspective, is not the same thing as what time would actually be considered. Time is something that we can only comprehend in a very basic way, because trying to attempt to more truthfully understand time requires a understanding and articulation of things that most people either don't care or don't have the ability to comprehend. I think that the greatest minds in our worlds are coming close to truly understanding what time is. And this is why we are saying that the fourth dimension is time. And yet we are three-dimensional beings. Even though we move through time, we only move through it in one direction. And a fourth dimensional being would be able to move through time in any direction it were to choose. So, the greatest minds among us understand time better than the people at the bottom. But it could also be argued, of course, that ignorance is bliss. You find yourself in a narrow corridor, looking two ways. One way has all the answers in the world, but also promises that your mind will never be the same again. And the other way is simply continued ignorance. There would be a third option, but it's a complicated thing where you're slowly easing into an answer, and this ends up leading to a type of madness that we see. It incorporates itself in most of humanity. It's a thing most people would refer to as aging. And yet there are those who still keep their mind, because despite everything, they don't attempt to learn the answers. They don't attempt to have anything but happiness. And there's a certain grace to being able to accept the world for what it is, not want to change it, and not wish for anything beyond what you have. I don't know that I have the ability to do that. Perhaps someday. But for as long as I can remember, I've wanted more than what I have. And yet, I also find it impossible to articulate what more is in any situation. More of what? More time? I have a great amount of time. More money? Money is a useless thing if you don't have a goal to work it towards. More experience, perhaps, but that comes with time. More, and then I end up drawing a blank. More what? More something. But that is simply the human desire in all of us, is to want more something. And that more ends up being a different thing for most people, something that we can only articulate in our deepest, darkest desires, something that ends up manifesting itself in everything that we do. More. I think what I want is the ability to escape without the ramifications. The ability to step back and, as it were, pause. But that's impossible in our current understanding of time, isn't it? Time is always marching forward. It doesn't matter how slow or how quick, just that it is moving forward. And the only way that we are observably able to escape this phenomenon, this time march, is when we die. But that's not exactly what I want, I don't think. There's a common thread where people would say that they want to die, but that usually simply translates to, I want an end to the current situation that I'm in. Not, I want an end to my life, unless they're in an extremely dire strait. It becomes easier and easier to want an end, a true end, as you age. And I think, well, everyone is heading towards one, so it's foolish to wish to expedite that. And at the same time, we still lean towards wanting it. We still have memories that we confuse for truths when they're dreams or past. When we only need to fully integrate ourselves into the current moment.